Welcome Classic Rock fans to a rather impromptu video. This was going to be one of my Patreon podcasts, but I thought I'd throw it open to a much wider audience. I saw a really interesting interview with Jon Anderson this morning where he said that Yes, the current incarnation of Yes, are just not that good. They're good, but just not that good as far as he's concerned. And it got me thinking about the state of play in terms of where Yes are at the moment. This whole debate of a Yes reunion, it was a fire started by Jon Anderson, I think, but Steve Howe has subsequently pissed all over it. He said, Jon Anderson has said that he's very open to the idea of a reunion, but of course he also states that he believes that Steve Howe has his own position to protect, and perhaps therein lies the problem. So if we think about that loaded statement by Jon Anderson that the current incarnation of Yes are not that good, first of all, how do we feel about that? And secondly, what do we think the odds are of there ever being a reunion of a Yes, a version of Yes, fronted by Jon Anderson, including Steve Howe? Because at the end of the day, I think that most fans want to see an incarnation of Yes with Jon Anderson at the front, at the helm, so to speak. I suppose I can't claim to speak for all Yes fans, but I feel fairly confident to say that I think that's what the vast majority of Yes fans actually want. Jon Anderson has made it quite clear that Steve Howe has his own position to protect, and you know, in many ways you can see Steve Howe feels that he owns the spoils at the moment. He has the higher ground, sticking with that military analogy. But for me this represents the existential threat or the existential crisis that we now find ourselves in, not just with this band but with rock music in general. And we have to ask ourselves what constitutes a band, or constitutes this band perhaps. I think we really have to be honest with ourselves in some respects. We're talking about Yes at the moment, but it's an argument that could be applied to a lot of bands of this sort of generation. I mean, that youthful vigour, energy and power and creative force that produced something as sublime as Close to the Edge is long, long gone. And these bands tend to just trade on their legacy, really, to put bums on seats. These bands really are just like a brand now, a touring brand. They're a product that's probably ceased to be a band many years ago. And of course, it all comes down to the ownership, the legal rights to the brand, so to speak. I think these days, before you go to an auditorium after you've remortgaged your house for a branded T-shirt and program, you should just be presented with the band's lawyers on stage. You know, they could have some background music, of course, but essentially that's what we're really paying for. I do realise I'm coming across as quite cynical, so I'm kind of hoping very much in the vein of Jon Anderson, you will lift my spirits and tell me that everything is positive. Anyway, I must admit, in terms of the current incarnation of Yes, I have made a video quite a long time ago discussing this. I must admit I bristle at the idea of seeing an incarnation of Yes that doesn't include Chris Squire. Now Billy Sherwood does a fantastic job on bass with the current lineup. I'm not taking anything away from him, but for me it's not just what is played, it's who is playing and the aura and presence that person has on that stage. And let's face it, Chris Squire's pretty big boots to fill. Now I did go and see Anderson, Rabin and Wakeman, and part of what motivated me to do that was to see Jon Anderson at the front singing that material. But also, I really wanted to hear some of the 90125 stuff performed live with Trevor Rabin. That was a real pull for me, and I enjoyed the show. I thought it was great. But it cemented in my own mind that I think for any incarnation of Yes to have the validity that we want, I think really Jon Anderson has to be included back in the fold as an original member. We've got an incarnation of Yes that is touring, that doesn't contain any of the original members of the band. I'm not taking anything away from Steve Howe. Steve Howe is an incredible musician and writer who is responsible for contributing some of the most sublime music I've ever heard. But therein lies the problem. Steve Howe feels he's trading on that legacy of that classic Yes period, because he's there, they've got that Yes logo, and but I just feel that it's not quite right. I don't wish to be pessimistic, of course. I did buy the last Yes album, Heaven and Earth. I did enjoy some aspects of it, but I just felt it was a little bit too generic and certainly lacked something. In fact, I've just done a Yes ranking video. Do check out that video. And I have heard on the rumour mill that they are planning to do a new album, which I will go out and buy and give it a good old fair listen. So I have some questions for you. The first one being is, Do you think Jon Anderson is right when he says the current incarnation of Yes are just not that good? Secondly, do you think they'll bury the hatchet and there will be some sort of reunion? Do you think that they'll ever get back together with Jon Anderson and Steve Howe in the same band? And my third question is Jon Anderson's latest album that he's just redone or reconfigured in some way, 1000 Hands I think it's called. Is it worth buying? I would like to say if you enjoy my musings on music and you enjoy my reviews, do check out some of the links below for ways you can support me and my channel. It is much appreciated. And so I will end by saying tune in, stay safe, but more importantly, please do keep listening.